I've got news, everybody. I'm retransitioning. As if that couldn't sound any more inauthentic. So, I wanted to make a video today about this subject. The subject of detransitioning and retransitioning. It bothers me, and I'll talk a lot about why and what's going on here and why this is happening. First of all, I want to talk about detransition. When I was fully in that place of still living as a pretend woman, okay? So here I was living as a woman. I had the surgery and everything and had completely altered my entire life around this whole gender identity thing that differed from my biology. My whole life, I drug my wife and my stepdaughter through this whole thing, and I changed my driver's license and my passport and everything to reflect that I was female. So my entire life literally was shifted to match this gender identity, this identity as female that I was living as a woman, okay? So what would happen is occasionally I would see someone that would detransition. And when this would happen, obviously that would cause me some serious struggles, some serious thoughts. Like what does that mean? If that person detransitioned, what does that mean about me and my life and all this that I've done? If it's possible that someone has detransitioned, then does that mean that I should detransition as well? But I'll tell you what happened to me at the time. When I would see someone detransition, my immediate response was, well, that's because they weren't really transgender. If they were really trans, there is no way they could detransition. They would still be living true to that, because being trans is something you're born with and you can't just fix it. It can't go away, right? That was my thought. I honestly believed that. I honestly believed that trans was something that could not heal. It could not go away. And which is, again, why I find it so fascinating that so many trans people want to tell me the same thing. Well, you just weren't really trans. If you were really trans, you'd still be living as a woman. Well, trust me, I said the same thing. I felt absolutely, positively, undeniably certain that I was never, ever going to detransition. So think about that. If I had that kind of certainty, and now I'm where I am today, making these videos, making content about detransition and teaching people about identity formation, and that identity is something that forms, it's not something you're born with. Think about that. If I was in that place of every time I saw a detransitioner and it completely shattering my world, but at the same time recognizing, well, the only reason they could have detransitioned is because they weren't really trans to start with. So there's a local doctor, which I actually have already got him to basically agree to come on my YouTube channel at some point and talk about his experience, because I think it's fascinating. I hadn't even transitioned yet, and we had to take our daughter to a doctor's office because she had a really bad ear infection, I think. And the doctor happened to be a trans woman. This was before I transitioned, but I was obviously I identified as female, a pre-transitioned female. And so we walk into the doctor's office, and here's this obviously biologically male doctor that is presenting as female. I loved it at the time because it gave me a lot of hope, seeing here is a doctor that is trans, that's living true to her real identity. She's a doctor. This is amazing. And I thought it was really cool. And so eventually, because me and this doctor later I transitioned, of course, and then me and this doctor both were on the same trans Facebook pages or whatever, and then I saw this person pop up. It's like, hey, that's that doctor that we took our daughter to. This is amazing. So I friend requested this doctor and we became Facebook friends. And so and then I transitioned. So then for a while we had this shared common thing that we were both trans. And I really admired and respected this doctor for living true to who she was, I thought at the time. Well, after a period of time, I think it was like a year or two later, all of a sudden I saw on Facebook this doctor post pictures of himself as a man and said that he was going back to living as a man, that he realized that it was a sin, that it wasn't right for him to try to live as a woman, and here he is detransitioned. And I had watched this person, I had respected this person for living what I thought was true to who they were, their true identity as a woman. And now here this doctor detransitioned, and it caused my world to start spinning momentarily, like I said, because at first it would really freak me out when I'd see these people detransition, because in my internal dialogue all of a sudden became, well crap, what's that mean about me? And then my thought process, as it processed it further, would conclude, well, the only way that could happen is he's not really trans. Or what I also told my wife is, he'll be back. Or I said, she'll be back. This is just temporary. He just felt like he had to detransition for a while, and then after a while he's going to go back to being a woman because he has to, because this is something that is not healable. This is something that is in a person forever, for life. And so my only answer was that clearly he wasn't really trans. So then there was this other person on Facebook as well that I was friends with, that he and his wife, this is the craziest story. He was married and had kids, and I watched him transition to live as a woman, and the whole thing, transitioned with his family, living as a woman, and then after a while he detransitioned, went back to living as a man. And so again, I'm like, okay, what the heck? The only reason he could have detransitioned is because he wasn't trans to begin with. And this is just him going back to living as a man because that's what he is, a man. Well, then a while later, he retransitioned to live as a woman again. And so then my thought process was like, okay, I can make sense of this. What happened was he felt uncomfortable living true to his true authenticity and reverted to living as a man for a while, and now he realized again that he really is female, and he went back to living as a woman again. And I was happy about that. I thought, okay, I can find some comfort in that, knowing that this is real. I really am born with this, and so their stories don't have to affect me. Either someone who detransitioned wasn't really trans to begin with, and that's the only reason they detransitioned, and then if they retransition, okay, I can still make sense of that in my body and in my story, and okay, right? So the doctor that detransitioned has never gone back, right? He somehow was able to completely eliminate those feelings in his body, and when he came to the realization of what he was doing and that it was a sin and that it was wrong for him to do that. And so he's never gone back. And I would love, like I said, I've already talked to him about coming on my channel and talking some about his story, and I would love to ask these questions that I'm curious about as to like whether he did fully heal from those feelings or whether he still struggles with the feelings some. I personally do not. So anyway, when people would detransition, I would do the same thing to them that current trans people do to me all the time, and say, well, the only reason you detransition because you were never trans in the first place. You make a bad name for trans people, because many of you are probably aware of this person called Nza Powers. I came across Nza shortly after I detransitioned. It might have actually been like a year after I detransitioned that I came across Nza, as another detransitioner, and I thought, okay, this is cool. Here's another person who detransitioned like I did, found God, and is living as a man again. Although I always questioned it because Nza never cut his long hair off. And not that you can't have long hair as a man. There are plenty of men out there with long hair that are perfectly masculine, that have no desire whatsoever to be, live, dress as a woman. And so his long hair wasn't necessarily the thing, but I questioned why. Why is he not willing to give up that part of himself? I have some videos from Nza and then another detransitioner that I want to talk about named Alex Williams.
So I finally told my parents I am detransitioning, and I want to tell the story. So for the first 3 months of living happily as a man and comfortable with my biological reality, I was so ashamed and embarrassed to tell my family the truth about what I was going through. Telling other people in my life was actually really easy, like friends and coworkers, because they don't mean as much to you as your family does, or at least they shouldn't. So it was good practice, at least talking to all of them. But when I finally told my parents, here's how it went. My dad and I are on the phone. We stay on the phone sometimes for like hours at a time. And we were watching the Pacers and Knicks NBA Finals game. And he was just like, your mother showed me one of your Instagrams and I noticed that you had some facial hair. What's going on with that? I was like, well, I don't really intend to hide who I am anymore, and I'm just kind of happy and comfortable with being transparently me. And he was like, well, what does that mean? And I go, well, I'm not pretending to be a woman anymore, for starters. He was definitely shocked. It felt really good to be open and honest with him, but the first thing he said was, what do I call you? I paused there for a minute and I go, well, you can just call me your son again. And he was like, whoa, okay. So I do go by Nza. It is a nickname, but my parents have their son back, and I feel very happy and confident in my choices and decisions, and I do have support from family and friends. So thank you to all of you, and I'll continue sharing my story as open and transparent as I possibly can, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, so that's Nza. And that's not the first video I saw of Nza. The first video I saw was Nza describing the situation he had when he was out by a river somewhere. He claims to have heard God tell him, I want her. And he at the time took it to mean that God wants him to give up the female version of himself and go back to living as a man. And as you see there in that video, he just said that he's confident in his decision to be a man again, to stop pretending to be a woman. He then proceeded to start making all of these Instagram videos about finding God and Jesus, and he would post all these videos about 1 day as a Christian, 10 days as a Christian, 30 days as a Christian, and he did this for a whole year, every day posting these little videos about being a Christian and how he's not a woman and that he never should have tried living as a woman and all this stuff. And I watched this with such hope and respect for him for having healed of his transness, which is definitely a mental illness, a definite mental disorder to believe that you are supposed to be a different sex, a different gender. To develop a gender identity that defies your biology is a mental illness. That is the exact definition of a mental illness. And so I was so happy that he healed from this, that he somehow managed to walk away from this mental illness of being trans. And then, after all this time of recording all these videos about God and being a Christian, and then he even was trying to join the Catholic Church. he recognized the Catholic Church as the answer, the religion. He started going to all these different churches, trying different churches out, but he landed on the Catholic Church and insisted that was the one he needed to join. You can imagine the total shock on a lot of people because he amassed a huge following. People love to see this formerly trans person having come back to his biological truth and also finding God. He got such a major following because of this, right? So then he posts this video.
Everybody smiling ain't for me, and everybody clapping ain't proud to see me win. Pain taught me some doors gotta close in my face, so better things can finally let me in. Pain taught me stop begging folks to.
And so all of us that are watching and see that, first of all, well, there was a couple other videos that happened before that one, I believe, where it seemed like maybe he was dressing more like a woman again. And then he posts that. He started posting videos that straight out said, "Oh, I'm not living as a man anymore. I am going back to I forget what his female name was." A couple other videos here. Let's see what this one is.
Pack up your car, put a hand in your heart, say whatever you feel, be wherever you are. We ain't angry at you, love. You're the greatest thing we've lost. Birds are still sing for, still fight the board, still creep.
That one.
We ain't angry at you, love. We'll be waiting for you, love. And we'll know.
I don't know why I was having issues playing. That may have been one of the ones that happened before he posted that he was straight out just going back to living as a woman. And all of us watching that watched this whole process of his detransition and coming to God and everything. And then we're like, what the heck is going on? Nza, what's happening? And there were a lot of concerned people reaching out like, Nza, I don't know what's happening. Are you okay? You're going back to, you're retransitioning? What is this? And then there was this. Here's another video.
Here I am. It's been a crazy couple of days, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the love and support that I've been shown, even if it is few and far between. I see it, and I am very grateful for it. And I'm really excited that I'm not discouraged to continue seeking God just because a few loud voices out there don't want me to, or at least don't want me to while loving my own identity. They would rather see me hate myself, and that's just not good for my journey with God, and also not good for me. When I became a Christian, I thought the only way to do it was to renounce an identity I had known so intimately about myself.
Okay, Nza, nobody wants you to hate yourself. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants you to hate the female part of yourself. In fact, in order to make peace with it, you probably have to love it. You have to learn to love the parts of yourself that thought they needed to be female. And I don't think anybody was telling Nza. There may have been some comments. Some people can get crazy in the comment section, right? There may have been some people that were a little too strongly worded about Nza and his experience. But I don't think any follower of Jesus would tell someone like Nza, hey, you can't be a follower of Jesus if you're gonna have this female aspect. But the thing is that if you are following Jesus and are a believer in God, you wouldn't live like that. You would love who you actually are, not this false identity that formed in you through your early life experiences. You're a man. You were born male. You will always be male. And the only good way to be, the only right thing to do, is to live true to what your actual identity is. And if you do believe in God, you wouldn't accept yourself living such a lie, living so untrue to your actual biology and who you are. So yeah, it is true that if you are a believer, if you are following Jesus and truly following Jesus, you won't be trans. A trans person can be a Christian. But if you fully accept Jesus into your life, you won't be trans. That is true. And for me, it wasn't about accepting Jesus that made me not trans anymore. It was just pure logic, reason, truth, knowing that when I realized that I was born male and it just didn't make sense. I didn't find Jesus till later, like a year and a half after I came to the realization I needed to detransition. So this is an interesting concept here where like Nza based his detransition on God, but then the longer it went on and he still had the feelings despite the fact that he found God, he ended up retransitioning, going back. It's like a drug that you might stay away from for a while, but then temptation comes up and it's too strong, and then you go back and you realize, I'm just exhausted of trying to keep myself from using that drug, so I'm just gonna use it. That's just who I am. I can't do this anymore. And so let's see what else he had to say in this video.
And seek out a self-loathing one, and that wasn't the right thing to do. I think the right thing to do is figure out how I can love the most in this world and seek God out fully in my heart and hopefully share that with others. So I'm going to continue doing that, and I appreciate, again, all of the love that's been shown to me and the prayers. You know, I was praying last night that I really hope new believers or people new on their journey don't come across some of my comment sections and think that these people represent the church or Jesus, because they don't. Just seek out love, and I'm going to do the same and continue seeking God. Talk soon.
You should seek out love. But true love is loving the body you have, loving what God made you, not what formed in your mind through experience and trauma and things that made you defy your own biology. It's, as I've said time and time again, for me, it was absolutely real. The experience was real. It felt like who I really was to such an extent that I could not accept detransitioners. And the only thing that made sense to me was that if someone did detransition, that they would ultimately retransition like Nza did, because that was the only thing that made sense to me, the only thing that made me feel okay in my experience, that okay, someone temporarily detransitioned, but oh, thank God they came back. All right, we're safe. We can continue. We can plow on, live my life as a woman, and all will be great. And so watch that whole thing with Nza. But then there was this other detransitioner that I have also been following for quite some time, ever since I detransitioned, and his name is Alex Williams. And he started making a lot of detransition content.
Hey guys, what's going on? I have a big update for you. I have decided to detransition. I was on male to female hormones for almost 8 years, and I stopped taking them about 2 months ago. I never had any surgeries or anything, never had an orchiectomy, so everything has come back online. My T levels are already in the male range, which is pretty crazy if you think about it.
Okay. Now that he just mentioned something there that I wanted to cover. I wrote down a little note to remind myself. So, he said he didn't have any surgeries, no orchiectomy, and so which means he still has his testicles. An orchiectomy is where you leave the penis, but you remove the testicles. So your body stops producing testosterone. And a reason for that, the reason trans people will often opt for an orchiectomy, having their testicles removed but leaving their penis, is for obvious reasons. It never made sense to me personally because I felt like I was female in every way, which meant I don't want that penis on my body. I want to have the parts that are true to my gender identity, to who I knew myself to be, a female. I believed I should have the female parts between my legs. So to me, the thought of an orchiectomy just seemed like it's not what I wanted. It didn't make any sense to still keep my penis. My penis was part of the problem, I thought. It was, when I would look down and see that or feel it on my body, that was one of the main things that caused me such distress, such dysphoria, as they call it. And so I could never understand keeping the penis. I wish I would have. But anyway, what I'm getting at is he just admitted that he still has his testosterone factory, right? So does Nza, as far as I know. Nza, I don't think, ever had surgery either and still is fully intact, just as Alex Williams. Within days of each other, both Nza and Ray came out as retransitioning, right? So think about this, and my previous video talking about hormones and hormones' effects on a person and their perspective of reality. If a man like Alex Williams or Nza Powers has this sexual tendency towards being a woman, and believe me, it is obvious with Alex Williams that it is sexual. With Nza, he never posted anything that made it obvious that it was sexual, although I know it still is because it's a sexual thing. It's a man who believes himself to be a woman or lives as a woman. Most of the time, there will be sexual feelings associated with that. When they dress up as a woman, even if they deny it, there is very commonly in people like this sexual feelings associated with presenting and living as a woman. And like I said with Nza, you couldn't quite see that, but with Alex Williams in his videos, especially now that he is retransitioning, it becomes very clear that it is sexual. There is a very sexual element to it. So the reason I'm talking about that is Alex Williams still has his testosterone factories. Nza still has his testosterone factories. And so the fact that it was sexually driven, it makes sense that they now retransitioned at this point. After Alex Williams did the same thing, found God. He started doing these podcasts with Christians. He found the Catholic Church. I don't know if he was raised Catholic or found the Catholic Church and joined it or whatever. I don't remember that detail. I know that both Nza and Alex Williams both had a draw to the Catholic Church. They also both have their testicles still. They also both, I believe, are sexually driven in their desire to be a woman. It seems to me that someone like myself, when I detransitioned, I did so after removing my testicles and my penis. I had the surgery, so I no longer had testosterone coursing through my body in the natural way that it was, or it should still be. I was able to work all of those feelings of being female out of my system completely. Not there anymore. But watching Alex Williams and Nza retransition, it makes me question, if I still had my testicles and still had the natural testosterone in my body, would I have struggled with that as well? And is one of the only reasons that I'm not going to retransition and have absolutely zero desire to whatsoever because I don't have those strong sexual feelings anymore? There's the possibility. The possibility definitely exists that if I still had my testicles to this day, I may still struggle with those feelings. I don't know. I don't really think so because of the way my gender identity dismantled itself, but I'm willing to remain curious. As far as I know, the doctor I talked about earlier, I don't think he ever had surgery either. I don't actually know that. He may have. Maybe that's why he's still detransitioned. You see, I would love to find the statistics on this, those who detransition, because I do know a few detransitioners that had surgery like myself who are male, who are not going to retransition. I don't sense in them any tendency towards retransition like Ray, Alex Williams, and Nza. Here's a podcast that Ray was on.
If you go into any transgender community where they are talking amongst themselves and you ask the question like, prior to transition, am I trans or is it just a fetish? The vast majority of all trans-identified males grapple with that question prior to developing a transgender identity. But they explain this away, saying that, well, I only developed this kink as a coping mechanism because I have repressed my true self.
See, that kind of goes along with what I was just saying. Ray, Alex Williams, one of his big messages for the longest time was autogynephilia, where he talked a lot about, because he recognized in himself that his desire to be female was sexually driven. He was AGP, had autogynephilia, the sexualization of oneself as a woman, to the thought of being a woman. He would be on all these podcasts and he would make all these videos on his channel about detransition and what causes a man to think he's a woman and all this stuff about autogynephilia, which at first I found really interesting because I totally did not relate. I was like, that does not seem like me at all. I am not doing this for sexual reasons. There is no sexual drive to it. It is who I've always been. I was born this way with this female identity. It's who I'll always be. And so it really confused me when he was talking about this sexual nature of a man wanting to be a woman. And I even commented on one of his videos, this is really fascinating to me. I really don't think it's like me, but I'm curious to explore further. And the more I explored it, the more I realized how much of my own desire to be female was sexually driven, which then turned itself into an identity, and then reflected itself on all of my previous life, to where looking back on all of my memories, oh yeah, I felt like a girl then, I've always felt like I was a girl. It's the weirdest thing, the way our psyches do this with this information. And so, watched Ray Alex Williams go through his whole thing of also being Catholic and talking about autogynephilia and everything. And then, like I said, within days of when Nza came out as retransitioning again and going back to living as a woman, Ray Alex Williams did the same thing.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ray. I don't even know where to begin with this video. This is going to be a doozy, big life update, obviously, for anyone who's been following my content for the past year and a half or so. Just the fact that I'm wearing makeup, you obviously know that I'm going to give some big life updates in regards to where I'm at in my life. What is my big picture belief systems? Because just to give a recap, I transitioned. I lived as a trans woman for 8 years, and I detransitioned, and I came to terms with my autogynephilia, love of oneself as a woman, my fetishistic cross-dressing as being the root cause of why I transitioned in the first place. And then throughout that process of trying to deal with that, of how to live as a man after I detransitioned, whether to cross-dress, I have all these kinks.
So this video is 25 minutes long.
of that and I want to try something else. And so yeah, I guess that's it for this video. Thanks for watching and take care. Bye-bye.
So he posted that video saying that he was retransitioning, and like I said, within days of when Nza also was retransitioning, and I'm just like, what is happening here? What's happening in the world? Why are these people detransitioning and then retransitioning? And both of them had pretty good followings. Nza's following, I believe, was way bigger, but Ray had a pretty decent following too on YouTube because he made all these videos about AGP, autogynephilia, and his detransition and why he detransitioned and is living as a man again. So then he posted this video saying that he was retransitioning, but then it was, even after this video where he said he was retransitioning, he still was bouncing around a little bit and posted some other videos about that he was going to start dressing more dapper man, and he started wearing these nice man suits and shoes and things, and said he was going to explore that. And so I thought, oh, this is really cool. He's curious about it. He's still recognizing that this is all in your head and that it was driven by the sexual thing, AGP. And so I'm like, okay, he's maybe still figuring it out, still working this out, and he's probably going to stay a man. Even though he said he was going to retransition, now it seemed like he was not going to. But then he just continued explore the feminine and dress in women's clothes, and then after a while said he was going back on female hormones even, and growing his hair out long.
Hey guys, so I'm a male detransitioner and I'm in the process of retransitioning. And I wanted to sort of document my process along the way because I'm definitely going about it in a completely different way than the first time I transitioned. Because I transitioned for the first time back in 2015. This was peak trans, the ideology was in full swing. And so I went really full bore into that whole ideology. I took on the pronouns, the constructed identity. I legally changed my name. I got really into transgender activism, all these.
Oh.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ray, and I used to be a detrans YouTube grifter reactionary.
Grifter?
And now I'm retransitioning and questioning everything.
So as you can see, he's back to very much female. Has been on female hormones again for a while. Even now is saying that, acting like he did a bad thing by being reactionary, called himself a grifter, which I've been called a grifter many times. Let's see what else he has to say here.
And the topic for today's video is whether or not I should delete all my old videos. Because now that I'm starting to get back into the good graces of the trans community, now that I'm starting to sort of reassess all these gender critical positions that I advocated for over the last 3 years when I was a detransitioner and a detrans activist, I'm starting to get trans people who say things that I ought to delete all my YouTube videos, that I shouldn't leave them up. And I have a lot of conflicted feelings about this. On the one hand, I can see the argument. The argument is that, well, let's say someone just randomly stumbles upon that video and it influences them in a negative way, or that could harm someone.
Okay, we get it. So yes, I wanted to make this video today to talk specifically about this subject. I've been wanting to make this video ever since Alex Williams and Nza Powers first announced that they were retransitioning, which has been a number of months now that I've been sitting on this one. A bunch of other people jumped on the bandwagon and started making videos about it and raking Nza Powers over the coals and things for various reasons, for for defrauding people, for making people think he was a Christian and all this stuff, and then to just retransition, which giving him the benefit of the doubt and knowing what that's like to be in a trans identity, although I don't know what it's like to detransition and then retransition or have a desire to retransition at all whatsoever, so I can't relate to that. But both of these men coming out of their trans identity and returning to living true to their biology, and then suddenly reverting again and going back to living as women, just it freaks me out a bit. Not in the same way. See, before, when someone would detransition while I was still living as a woman, it would freak me out because it would cause me to have to question myself, question this whole reality that I built around this female identity. Whereas now, I live as a man, and watching these men retransition to live as women again, it freaks me out, but for a different reason. Not because I'm like, oh crap, am I really a woman? That's what a lot of people want to tell me. A lot of these trans people want to tell me, oh, you'll be back. Kind of like I used to do when someone would detransition. They tell me, oh, you'll be back. And they call me sis, sister. And it's just they try to get my goat. Try to get me going by implying that I'm still trans and that I'm just in denial. Or they like to call me a gay man who only wanted to be a woman because I wanted it to be okay to have sex with men. I have zero desire to ever have sex with men. That's so far out of the realm of possibility that it's not even funny. So it's humorous when people say these things. But I know why they're saying it. Because my detransition causes them to have to question themselves, and nobody likes to feel like they're doing something wrong or off, so they have to justify their actions and defend their actions and discredit me. This reminds me of my own videos of when I came out as trans. So first of all, when I came out as trans, this was the first video I posted publicly. So this is probably the first of many videos. I am trans. Have been my whole life. Don't want to go through the whole story right now. I just wanted to share some thoughts. I only have been my whole life. Don't want to go through the whole story. See, I recognized at the time, that was in 2017, that video. And at the time, the whole trans movement wasn't as big as it got a few years later. It was still, there was a lot of trans people, but it didn't have quite as much steam as it gained a few years later, especially during COVID. COVID really brought the transness out of people. Hardcore. They were trapped inside, having to deal with themselves. Their typical distractions of life were taken from them by this made-up nonsense pandemic that didn't even exist, that controlled and destroyed many of our lives and businesses and everything else. So many people's lives were destroyed through that whole nonsense period that we all had to suffer through. And one of the terrible, terrible effects of that was that so many more young people came out as trans during that period. Like I said, because they're stuck inside with each other, stuck inside with their own feelings, and they're not out doing the things outside that normally would have kept them connected to God or kept them distracted from these feelings. The feelings overcame them and became an identity, and then when they were affirmed by this society that made them think that it is possible to be born in the wrong body and that's what you're experiencing, then it became cemented in them as an identity that even when COVID passed, it stayed with them. And of course, now we're at about the timeline where it's been 6 to 7 years since that whole period, where those who are naturally going to detransition like I did are going to. So we're seeing a lot more people detransition now that it's been that key time frame from when they first transitioned, which most people, if they're going to detransition, it seems that they do about 6, 7, 8 years after they transitioned. For me, we all know my story, that I transitioned in 2017, and then in 2023 I posted this video. Hi friends. So, I have had an incredible turn of events. I believe always in staying curious, always in remaining open to the fact that we may not even know who we are, that we may think we are something, and what lies beneath that may be something entirely different. In my path of self-discovery and self-learning, I have gone down paths in an attempt to discover who I really am, what my identity really is. And in recent months, I have had experiences that have opened my mind to concepts of what this programming has caused, what it is that we are, what our identity is. I have channeled information from my highest self. I have had plant medicine experiences that have all pieced together this incredible tapestry, incredible puzzle of what it is that makes a person who they are, what it is that makes a person gravitate to an identity or to who they think they really are, and the fact that we defend who we think we are because there's safety in that. So that being said, I recently had an experience that showed me what gender is. I gained an incredible understanding of what gender identity is and where it comes from and why. It was revealed to me through various experiences that built upon each other that even down to our gender identity and our sexual orientation is all a product of every experience we have ever had leading up to the current moment. So every experience we have ever had from the time we were born and the perspective we had based on what our current experience level was at that time, based on every experience we had, every memory we had, every data point that went along with every memory and every experience that we had over the course of our lives, all formed together this delicate tapestry of who we are. Yes. This video, I recorded this video the day after I had this profound experience where this all unraveled for me. I was living perfectly happy as a woman, perfectly content with the surgery I had to my body, had no regrets whatsoever, was perfectly happy with my life, living every day like as a woman, as a pretend woman. And then I had that experience on October 23rd, 2023, and this video was recorded on October 24th, the very next day. And so I told my wife, she wanted to know, well, how soon are you going to go back to presenting as a man? And I was like, tomorrow. I can't go out as a woman now knowing what I know. But when I got up that morning on October 24th, 2023, and I went in my closet, for one, I had no men's clothes anymore. I had gotten rid of all of them. I had been living as a pretend woman for 6 years at this point. I didn't have any men's clothes anymore because I wanted nothing to do with them. I was fully woman, living as a pretend woman. And so that morning, it was one of the most uncomfortable things for me to put my wig back on, although at the same time without it I felt completely bald, because I am bald. But there was a different level of, like, right now I can live my life bald and not feel like I'm bald, but that, the day after wearing a wig all day every day for 6 years of my life, I couldn't make myself go out without it on because it just felt so weird. And like I said, I didn't have any men's clothing in it either. So I went back to the coffee shop. I recorded this outside the coffee shop that I spent so much of my time working at. And I knew I was a man, but now I'm still wearing my wig and still wearing my women's clothing. And I recorded this video knowing that I was a man and knowing I was going to return to living as a man, but didn't have any male clothes. And it was the weirdest experience is what I'm saying. It was so freaking weird for me. And so I don't know if Nza Powers and Alex Williams experienced a similar situation. I don't think they did, because they never truly healed their gender identity. That, or because it's a sexual thing in them and they still have their hormones going through their body because they never had surgery. I don't know. But it's a weird thing. 2 minutes left and see what I have to say. In your mind and attachments to meanings and ideas. And therefore, I am comfortable with whatever makes you comfortable. But I am going to now start using the pronouns he, him again, because that's what the majority of the world just expects. That's what makes me feel more comfortable, because now having this realization, having this full circle awareness. And therefore, like I said, I appreciate those of you who welcomed me and appreciated me for who I was desiring to be and desiring for people to refer to me as and accept me as, and that's wonderful. You're wonderful humans for doing so. Mm-hmm. And I understand it may be a hard transition more for other people than for myself at this point. It was a very hard thing for me to come about too. It, like I said, shattered my world to realize this about myself. But now I had to get all of my parts on board, every part of me that was ever built over my past, to realize this is in the best of everybody's interest. This is what's best and will allow me to live more fully to who I actually am, and to more fully be able to fulfill my purpose on this earth, to help others as a guide to embodied wisdom. That's what I am. I am here to guide people to embody their own wisdom. I have been shown this incredible tapestry of what forms a person to be who they are, so that I could help people overcome their own traumas, their own past, their own limiting beliefs, their own attachment to ideas. I love you all. Thank you for joining me in this incredible journey, this roller coaster of events. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I cannot fully convey to you what that was like for me. It was weird. It was weird, because like I said, one day I'm living perfectly happy as a woman, fully convinced that this is truly who I am. It will never change. There is no way in hell this is ever going to change. I will never detransition, to all of a sudden, oh boy, I have to detransition. There's no other way. I am not female. I am not a woman. I've always been a man, always will be, and I had no choice but to go back. And here I am. It's been going on 3 years. Going on 3 years now, and I have not put a single article of women's clothing on ever since. Because why would I? That's not who I am. I am a man. I am biologically male. I am mentally male, emotionally male, male in all the ways. And so when I see these people retransition, what that tells me is that they just did not heal the feelings that were underneath their transition in the first place. They didn't heal the sexual nature of it. Nza and Ray, I love you both so much. Sending you so much love, respect, kindness. I can't judge you. Can't judge you. Look at what I did to myself and where I am. there's the part of me that wants to judge you for for reverting to living as trans again, or as female again, because it just doesn't make sense to me. I can't compute this. I mean, parts of me can compute it. Like I said, that if it really is a sexual nature, which I know it is for Ray, and I'm pretty sure it is for Nza, then the fact that they still have their male hormone producing parts, that could be part of it. It could contribute to it. The fact that I do not have my hormone producing male parts could also contribute to the fact, or to how I was able to just completely detransition and put it behind me and never look back. I don't know. But yes, I love everybody where they're at in their struggle. It's a beautiful thing being a human. Kind of scary, confusing thing sometimes. But if we all just love each other and learn to love ourselves for who we are, then we'll at least thrive in this world. You're not going to thrive when you defy logic, biology, and everything. It's not going to happen. There's that part of you that will be happy. It's much like saying, like I've said before, much like saying a drug addict is thriving because he's using his current chosen drug. Trans identity is very similar to a drug. It's something we put on to satisfy a feeling. And I'm not here to tell people how they should live, but what I am here to do is to share the wisdom I've learned from my own experience and to convey how difficult it can be living in this world when you're in defiance of your biology, and how much happier, safer, freer, more comfortable it is living in this world when you can truly accept who you are and love that person and not try to change it. It's like the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence concept. If you're constantly thinking, I'd be happier if I was this different thing, then you're always going to be in that state that the grass is greener over there. What if I go over there? Maybe I'll be happier. Maybe if I get this surgery, I'll be happier. It's an endless chase. The only true happiness, it doesn't lie in the Catholic Church. Joining the Catholic Church is not going to heal you of your trans identity. Accepting God is not going to heal you of your trans identity. Truly following Jesus, though, will. Because if you truly follow Jesus, you will truly love yourself for how you were created. You will truly love other people, and you won't have these sexual tendencies. You won't have the sexual tendencies might still be there, but you'll learn to heal them in yourself. You'll learn to reprogram them. If there are unhealthy sexual tendencies in your body or unnatural sexual tendencies, you will do the work to heal it, and you will come out of this. There's a lot to say about that, but I've gotten on long enough, and I think I covered the points I was wanting to cover. And so, love you all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support, and it's a beautiful life. Your body is a gift, an absolute gift to be cherished, loved, not hated. Hatred of the body does not come from the self. Hatred of the body comes from past experiences that taught you that you needed to hate your body. You wouldn't hate your body if you did not have experiences that taught you to hate it, that there was an expectation that your body didn't live up to. It just wouldn't happen. So, love you all. Take care.